A very good evening and welcome to Corero, a platform where we help you unpack Nigerian political issues. My name is Godwin Sunday. Governance and economic development remains two of the most critical pillars shaping Nigerians' future. From fiscal policies to social interventions, decisions taken by government institutions often determine the pace of growth, the quality of public services, and the opportunities available to citizens. Yet, many Nigerians continue to ask tough questions. The first of them is, are current policies translating into real economic progress? The second is, are the government structures delivering transparency, accountability, and inclusive development? And how effective are leaders responding to issues such as inflation, unemployment, infrastructural deficit, and the rising cost of living? Beyond the statistics and beyond the old policy announcement, the real big question and big test to governance lies in its impact on everyday life, from job creation to business growth and improved public welfare. So tonight on Corero, we'll take an overview of Nigerians' governance and economic development, examining the challenges, the policies, direction, and what it means for the nation's future. Joining me on this big table this night is Randy Peter Akah, a political activist, content creator, and social media influencer, and he'll be helping us put all of these issues in perspective. Well, we will begin the conversation immediately after this break. Please go nowhere. And you're welcome back. Well, before we went on that break, I told you I'm being joined by the person of Peter Randy. We popularly call him Mr. Peter of Nigeria. For Nigeria. It's a delight to have you on Corero.
An absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, before you walked in, a lot of people said tonight is going to be very hot in the studio. Of course, we have to turn on all the ACs.
Are your ACs not working?
Well, we are turning all the ACs so that we can calm the tension. Yeah. But then it's a good time to talk about Nigeria and its development. But looking at Nigerians' governance and economic development over the years, how would you describe the journey so far for Nigeria? Have we been making progress? Are we still stagnant, or are we even retrogressing as a people?
I think thank you very much for having me once again. The answers are obviously staring we all on our faces. If I was born, in the 90s, and I grew up to shout up NEPA, meaning when power is given to you, it is a thing of joy, because you don't see it constantly. And 30 years later, a child that is born today is repeating the same slogan. Then you wonder how you have improved over time. If the legendary musician Fela sang a song like, they say, they packed themselves in line standing, and all of the issues with police brutality and all of that, in 2020, we still had NSAS. Then we now talk about maybe the Jonathan, let's talk about between 1999 and date. Under the Jonathan administration, we had Occupy Nigeria for fuel subsidy issues, the price of petrol. Today, queues are back. A government took out subsidy. You cannot account for how much was saved from removal of subsidy. Or is it about insecurity, where we're talking about Boko Haram in the northeast, Adamawa, Yobe, and Borno State? Today, the entire country is a theater of war and blood, and we have government policies that, according to AFP reports, the government is paying, ransom for kidnapped victims, and insecurity has almost become a multilateral economic investment. The more money you pump into it, the more it increases. So I think on all indices of governance, it shows that as a people, we have become even more impoverished with time, where today the world's headquarters of poverty, the dollar is at how much to the naira is how much to the dollar. So it is up to us to decide what exactly are we not doing right, because as you know, a certain proverb will say, it is insanity to repeat the same action and expect a different result.
Well, interesting. But as an activist, from your own observation, what single governance failure has had the greatest impact on Nigerians' economic growth?
The absolute, tragedy about Nigeria is a lack of accountability. When leaders are not beholden to the people because they do not believe that power comes from the people, they have the capacity to misgovern, to misrule, and then rig themselves back because it is not about the people. There is no country where the vote of the people count, where leaders act as irresponsibly and as reckless as Nigerian leaders. President Tinubu told you that if I do not give you power, do not vote me back in 2027. Do you have constant power today? We said subsidy regime is gone. is the criminality in the oil sector gone? The money that is saved from the stopping to paying for oil subsidy, where is it reinvested to? Today we have more than 7.2 million small and medium scale enterprises that have folded up. So the tragedy is not just that as a people these issues are happening. It is more that you have leadership that is not interested in fixing them, and the people have failed to secure a system to hold them accountable. So whether you want to talk about the economy, you want to talk about the cost of living, you want to talk about inflation, and especially security, because I mean, Mr. Godwin, is there any sustainable development that is built? Do you build infrastructure for the dead? Do you build coastal highway for the dead? According to the reports, within the first 1 year of the Tinubu administration, more than 4,500 Nigerians were killed, more than 7,000 kidnapped. By 2025, that number, according to Al Jazeera, has risen to more than 11,000 in a country that is not fighting a war with any external country, just within itself. People continue to die. Today, kidnap for ransom has become a normal thing. And you can hear the National Security Advisor tell you that, you know, terrorists, amongst them, they could have your brothers and you should show understanding. So it is the fabric of governance and society that is being shredded, and the people must get a way to hold public office holders accountable.
Interesting times. But then you've spoken about subsidy a lot, the removal of subsidy.
Yeah.
I think you believe that the subsidy regime has not really worked so far. The subsidy removal has not worked in favor of Nigeria. Of course, a lot of Nigerians would disagree with you that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration have been able to utilize the subsidy. But then it's coming from the subsidy angle. What is your how will you react to the whole subsidy removal?
Who are the persons who are saying that the Tinubu administration has done well? Who are the people who are okay with the removal of fuel subsidy? Who knows exactly how much has been saved from? Look, you know, when you look at leaders who are not accountable and transparent, it is high-level mischief. And what we call government in Nigeria today is organized criminality. Every system and institution of governance today in Nigeria is there to aid and abet criminality and corruption. Unfortunately, this institution that is supposed to carry out checks and balances, the National Assembly, has almost become a daycare for the president. When you say subsidy regime is gone, in civilized climes in the Western world, subsidy is not a bad thing. What you call social security and the rest of them are subsidy. The question is the corruption and criminality in the subsidy regime gone? When you want to be a transparent leader, the first question we should have asked is that, President Tinubu, how much had been wasted on fuel subsidy between 1999 and when you came in? By stopping to pay fuel subsidy, how much could you have, saved within the first 1 year? What is the reason why we do not have stable power in Nigeria? Government is owing gencos and discos. How much do we need to invest? How much do we need to offset our debt? So now we have a situation where in Nigeria today, this is a government that took out fuel subsidy, the government that has taxed Nigeria more, that has generated revenue, but somehow has still ended up borrowing more than the past 3 presidents combined. So what exactly are the fiscal policies available or the social security available to Nigerians? What is the benefit of the removal of fuel subsidy? So that you can say, look, we are paying the price with higher energy prices, higher fuel. But due to we paying this, we have now been able to sort out infrastructure. We have better hospitals. Guess what? In 2025, according to the Ministry of Health budget, the Minister for Health said out of 218 billion budgeted for infrastructural project, 36 million was released to the Federal Ministry of Health for capital projects. Do you know that in Nigeria today, there are more renewed hope campaign buses than Federal Ministry of Health emergency ambulances? And guess what? The president, within the first 2 years of his administration, spent more than 34 billion on just Forex for international travel. And by this month, March, President Tinubu has taken the Aso Rock Villa off the national grid to be powered by solar energy. Meanwhile, Nigerians, more than 90 million wallow in darkness, disconnected from the national grid. So which of the Nigerians are talking about the benefits of removal of fuel subsidy? Where is the money? Where is the economy? According to the United Nations, more than 141 million Nigerians have moved into extreme and multi-dimensional poverty. We have overtaken India again, a country with more than 1 billion people. It is a tragedy.
Interesting. But then, Peter, I'm curious.
Yes.
At this point, there are big speculations that your outburst is a deliberate attempt to attack the All Progressive Congress and also the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Do you set out to address or to attack the president with all of your outbursts?
What is attack? What is the definition of the word attack? Every government and every system that has leaders must be held accountable. Democracies thrive when citizens participate. And if you fail as a people to hold leaders accountable, then you do not have a society to live in. What you have is a hostage situation where citizens are oppressed and they say nothing and do nothing. Why? Because we have built strong men and not strong institutions. Why should the government not be held to account? What do you mean by, within all that you say, when you say that, oh, people are being killed, and you ask the government that, why should you be killing people? What is the primary responsibility of government? The protection, security of life and property. So when people criticize and call out inefficiencies of government, it is not an attack. It is holding people accountable because every life matters. There is no government in the world where the power of the people prevail, where more than 100 people will be killed and the president will attend the wedding ceremony. Do you know the victims of kidnap that we are talking about right now, some who are in the forest? Today in Nigeria, terrorists are making phone calls in 2026 using POS to collect money. They are using phones to make transfers, but somehow the government cannot track them. Guess the only technology that we do not have, the technology to do electronic real-time transmission of results for INEC. The only people doing real-time transmission right now in Nigeria are terrorists and bandits. Even from the forest, they can do it. But Nigeria's INEC, after receiving 873 billion, does not have enough technology to power elections. So it is not about, I don't know the president, I do not know themselves personally. It is about what you do with the power that is given to you. And if Nigerians as a people cannot wake up and together hold leaders accountable, then we can foreclose Nigeria as a democracy. What you see is what you get.
So invariably, you're saying you're not attacking the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, neither are you attacking the office of the president, or neither are you even attacking the ruling or progressive Congress, if I get you correctly.
I do not have, look, we do not even have a ruling party per se. The current All Progressives Congress is an affliction to Nigerians. It is a curse. Nigerians must self-liberate. It is not about whether people attack. You must hold leaders accountable.
We'll allege on that, yes. that Nigerian is under some form of bondage. Let's allege on it, because a lot of people will tell you they are liberated in this life.
Who are they? Who are you talking to? Where are they?
You know, we have the other side of this divide.
Okay.
People that believe so much in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's policies, and those that don't believe. So you are saying you're not attacking the person of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. You're not attacking the office of the president. Rather, you are standing as a patriotic Nigerian to speak out when you see some form of inadequacies.
No, rather the government we have in Nigeria today is waging an attack on the Nigerian people and the democracy that we have.
How do you mean?
Yes, because when you have a government that comes and decides to engage in state capture, where you want to convert the entire apparatus of states to become a one-party state, it is an attack on democracy. When you have today in Nigeria, America is helping to fight insecurity, France is helping to collect taxes, President Tinubu is in charge of overseeing defections from other parties to the APC. You have a National Assembly that is supposed to perform oversight over every other arm of government. When the president goes to submit his budget, do you know what they greet him with? His campaign mantra, on their mandate they shall collapse, sang also with the judicial arm of government. Do you know that these are arms of government that must run independently of each other as coordinates and not subordinates? So when you have a National Assembly that has become subservient to the executive arm of government, that has basically become a daycare, it is an assault on our democracy. So if there is anybody attacking any other person, it is the government that has decided to weaponize every institution of state against the people and not the other way around. And we all who are victims of this rudderless leadership must come together and insist that the right thing be done to protect human life and not support criminality in power.
A common trend online is the claim that Nigerians have lost trust in public institutions. Do you think this perception is justified?
I mean, we should be getting these statistics from you as the fourth estate of the realm, the media, the press, because you should be at the fore of holding these governments accountable and also getting the data that is, necessary. Right. I mean, you watched the recent interview between Daniel Bwala and Al Jazeera and how it has made, a lot of buzz about how exactly the media, the role they play in the country. When you talk about trust exactly, one of the most common institutions that should protect human rights and ensure justice are the courts, the judicial arm of government. Sir, how well do you trust the courts in Nigeria today? do you have confidence that when you go into a court, is it truly the last hope of the common man, or it has become the last hope of the uncommon man? When they tell you that the law enforcement that should be closest to you, the police, is your friend, sir, is the police in Nigeria your friend? Bail is free. Is bail free in Nigeria? Have you gone to the police and left without paying bail? That is the law enforcement that is supposed to provide primary security to you, where you must collaborate to help them get intelligence. If there is that level of distrust between you and your law enforcement, what other thing? If there is no collaboration even between the police, the civil defense, the Nigerian army and the DSS, there is a lot of rivalry among them. How do they unite to provide security for us? So across board, it is a tale of recklessness and irresponsibility. It is not up to Nigerians to just complain, because when you see people talk like the way I talk, it is highlighting the issues. But beyond highlighting the issues, we must also call for fixing them, because guess what? Bad governance does not exist in a vacuum. We are the collateral for it.
All right, so why I ask that question is because to a very large extent, or even on the social media space, Nigeria is because there's this salient debate that we cannot trust the institutions. Now we have our statistics, we have our data that shows that few institutions in the country are working, not all.
Like,
let's not start mentioning.
I mean, it is important that let's not give credit.
Let's not give credit to various institutions right now. But let's even look at it. You are an activist.
Okay.
I'm
an advocate.
Okay,
I don't know
okay, you are an advocate for the good people of Nigeria.
Yes.
But then we've seen a lot of advocates also that are emerging from the social media space. Now, when outbursts from the social media space happen, does the government listen, or the government ignores from all of the social media pressure that is even we see online?
One of the most critical moments in recent history when Nigerians came out to demand for a change en masse in form of civic mobilization and protest was NSAS, October 2020. We were all here, we witnessed it. What was the response of government? Young people who were seated on the floor waving their country's flag and singing the country's anthem, demanding that they should be protected from law enforcement brutality, extrajudicial killings. What was the response? Live arms were fired at people who were demanding an end to police brutality. So every time you see, recently we were at the National Assembly where we went to protest. What did we go to demand? That there should be transparent elections, pass an electoral act that would guarantee free and fair election. What was the response? Tear gas canisters were shot at us from the gate of the National Assembly. People scampered up until Eagle Square and into the Federal Secretariat. Women fell on the ground. Women who were backing children, some fainted and collapsed. So you have a government that is tone deaf. In fact, instead of building a system that can hold them accountable, they are ready to ensure that they weaponize the system, because guess what? The current ruling party, whether you like it or not, is an unpopular party. They know that if there are free and fair elections in Nigeria today, before 1 o'clock, the defeat of Tinubu and his minions will be announced. What they put their confidence on is a rigged electoral process. It is up to Nigerians to wake up and ensure that that system gives them the opportunity for their votes to count, so that they can pick leaders. Look at the United States, for example. Trump is not even waiting for 4 years, because by November of this year, they have their midterm elections. If he does not perform well, the House or the Senate will flip into the other party, the Democrats. It puts him in a difficult place. That is why 1 year, a little above 1 year, he's trying to accomplish all of his manifesto, ending the war in Ukraine, the war in Gaza, here and all of that, foreign policy. In Nigeria, it is because they know that you can be a calamity. Just rig yourself back through INEC and go to the Nigerian General Hospital judiciary.
Interesting times, Peter, to talk about Nigerian politics. But then again, I'm curious, speaking of governance, of course, we can all sit on the fence to analyze government policies, how effective and how efficient the government policies are. But so far, the distance between involvement in governance tend to be a very wide margin. At this point, I'm curious, do you belong to a political party?
I will belong to eventually. Every person in Nigeria should belong to a political party. If the persons who are destroying the lives of Nigerians are in a political party, those who want to rescue Nigeria must belong to a political party. You cannot make change from outside. For you to even change what you want, you must be a part of the process. And you should understand that everything you see from the government and trying to make these institutions not work is deliberate. According to INEC, 2023 total number of registered voters were about 93 million. Persons who collected PVCs were about 87 million. Sir, the total persons who voted in 2023 are less than 28 million people. President Tinubu is seated at the presidential villa today with a mandate of less than 9 million persons. That is less than 20% of the country chose the leader. More than 50 million people took the pain to register, collected PVCs, but decided not to participate. Why? Because a lot of Nigerians do not believe in that process. A lot of Nigerians do not believe that what they come out to do on election day is what INEC announces at the end. Look at the FCT election that took place some Saturdays ago. More than 900,000 registered voters, less than 70,000 came out to vote. Nigerians daily are losing hope and confidence in the systems and institutions to protect them. So they would rather say, let this thing be. But every person who knows that you mean well for your life should know that you can still become a victim of a system you chose to ignore. So we must engage.
Well, Peter, I'm asking that question because of the speculations.
Yeah.
That you are coming from the angle of the opposition, and as such, you are trying to ridicule the government. Everything you speak about the government I tend to spin from the negative side of things. Have you seen anything positive about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration?
I mean,
is there any?
I'm curious about what the word, coming from the side of opposition means.
Perhaps you belong to the Labour Party, you belong to the ADC, you belong to the People's Democratic Party and other political parties. Now that forms the opposition political party.
Mr. Godwin,
yeah, please go
in
ahead.
Nigeria today, I am an active citizen. And the greatest opposition in Nigeria is the people's opposition.
So as an active citizen, you've not seen anything good about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's
administration? I want you to give me the
administration?
statistics. It is important that you also raise them. You are talking about because we must engage factually and we must stick to the issues. We want to talk about insecurity. You want to talk about the economy. You want to talk about corruption or anti-corruption in Nigeria today. So it is important that we stay with the facts so that when people begin to make statements like, oh, you are attacking because of for the sake of opposition, let us know what the figures are. On insecurity in Kebbi State, the Kebbi State governor told you that before they went to kidnap girls from government girls secondary school, MAGA, we got intelligence that they will attack the school. We deployed security men there. Few hours before they attacked, the security men withdrew. And then the people came, made away with more than 20 children, killed the vice principal and another student. Till today, the APC governor is asking, who ordered troops out of government girls secondary school, Kebbi State? The commander-in-chief, President Tinubu, is yet to respond. Is the Kebbi State governor an opposition member? I want to know. So that when you want to talk about people who criticize the government, is the governor of Kebbi State, Nasir Idris, an APC chieftain, is he also a part of the opposition? Was it the opposition who claimed, according to AFP, that more than 2 billion was paid for the release of the students in St. Mary's Catholic Primary School in Papiri in Niger State? So we have a government that is subsidizing terrorism instead of protecting the lives of citizens, and we sit down to talk about people criticizing for the sake of opposition. Or is it about the economy where we have, according to Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, more than 100 million Nigerians living in extreme and multi-dimensional poverty? So what part of it belongs to the opposition? Was it the opposition who pushed more people into poverty? Was it the opposition who took out subsidy and refused to reinvest it in so critical areas of the infrastructure? Or coming to talk about the war against corruption? How many persons, was it opposition chairman who said that when you come to our party, your sins are forgiven? How many persons in the APC who had cases of EFCC? The former Delta State governor, more than 1.3 billion EFCC allegation case. When he defected to the APC, have you seen him in court? So which of them is the opposition? Which of them is criticizing for the sake of opposition? All of those stories are trying to water down the real pain and reality. The pain and suffering that Nigerians are going through is real. I know people who are currently having loved ones in the forest. Kidnappers are calling and threatening their lives to pay ransom in the tone of millions. Are those part of the opposition who are just criticizing this government? This government is a tragedy and it is a shame.
So you've not seen anything good about this?
I want you to take...
No, perhaps if we take it up from taking it from various states, and of course we can't say that the whole exclusive legislative list is completely not even in tandem with growth and development. The exclusive legislative list, which is, we've seen what Festus Keyamo is doing in the aviation space. Okay. Since you want us to mention names. Okay. We've seen what his other counterpart in the Ministry of Interior, Olubunmi, is doing within that space also. We've seen what is going on even in educational aspects.
Okay, what is going on in education?
Tunji allows, I'm just trying to cite instances. Now, we can't rule out completely. I'm curious. Are you not seeing anything good about President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration?
Continuously asking if I'm seeing anything good.
Nothing. No policy, no program, no agenda.
Your question makes it look like you are deliberately, one is deliberately looking for the negatives of the government. I am giving you factual statistics. The Ministry of Interior that you mentioned, sir, did you follow the budget presentation of the Ministry of Interior this last month or last 2 weeks? The Minister of Interior told you that for 2 years, in 2024 and 2025, 0% of our budget for capital expenses was released to that ministry. Are you aware of that, sir? What level of administration of fiscal policies leads to that kind of situation? Do you know that in Nigeria today, we have more than 3 budgets running concurrently? We have the 2024 budget, the 2025 budget, and the 2026 appropriation bill all collapsed into 2026. Are you aware? Are you aware that in the Ministry of Education, when you talk about whatever that is going on with the Ministry of Education, Nigeria has more than 18 million out of school children as we are talking. 18 million is almost half the population of Ghana. It is almost twice the population of Rwanda. An entire generation of children are not engaged in education, and we should sit down and clap hands because what somebody made the policy statement. What exactly is infrastructural development in the midst of insecurity and violence? Did you watch the videos of persons who were attacked in the CAC church in Iruku in Kwara State? Have we seen videos of soldiers killed in an attack in Goza in Borno State? And terrorists are online displaying and brandishing their weapons and the videos of how they successfully attacked Nigerian military bases. And we have a commander-in-chief. And I'm supposed to be seated here and talking about what Tinubu has done in the aviation sector. How many Nigerians have the abilities to buy air tickets? How many Nigerians have the capacity to fly by air travel? All the contracts and everything that is awarded by the Ministry of Works, the Ministry of Aviation, at what cost? Who is the person auditing those contracts? What is the bidding process? Look, if we want to have a country that is sane, if we want to have a country that follows due process, we must insist on it. Any other thing is aiding and abetting corruption and criminality, and we will never be better off.
Well, Peter, you know, I like the way you're passionate about talking about issue that borders on Nigeria.
Yeah.
But then again,
yeah,
where do we go from here?
Good. Important question. Everybody must get leadership that can be held accountable. One of the foundations of every democracy are free, fair, credible, and peaceful elections. And that is why when you see any government that claims to have a democracy, that comes into power and is trying to behave that we want to fix every other thing, but it's not talking about free and fair elections, it is extreme and high-level mischief. The bane of democracy is not building coastal highway. It is that when people come out to vote, their votes will count. They can choose their leaders. If they fail to perform, they can vote them out. When you see a government that is telling you that I am doing this, but I cannot give you the ability to vote free and fair, that is high-level mischief. Nigerians must know that the tragedy of Nigeria is that there is no worst-case scenario. Because things are this bad does not mean it will not get worse. That is the Nigerian situation. There was a time where they thought that Jonathan was so bad, occupy Nigeria. Jonathan did, Jonathan should go. He left. Then Buhari told you that there was another level to incompetence. For 8 years, Buhari was treating ear infections in London. Buhari was treating, his doctors were in the United Kingdom. There was a time he was in the UK for almost 100 days. At the end of his presidency, he died in the UK in a private hospital and returned to the country as a cargo. Today, the current president has his own doctors in France. The Ministry of Health you are talking about, does the president use the Nigerian hospital? When last did you see President Tinubu doing checkup in a Nigerian hospital? Even you as the press, as journalists, when last did you see President Tinubu stand behind a lectern, the way President Donald Trump, you will see of America, take rapid questions from the press to declare and to defend his own policies? Before you even ask opposition or any other person, activist, to come out and defend Tinubu, when last did Tinubu come out to take questions from you to defend his own government? Since he's doing so well and you think he's doing so well.
Well, I'm not holding brief for the president.
Good.
So let's just be on the same page, Peter.
No, not you. Not you.
When you're saying, you're talking to me directly, so
you represent the press.
You are talking to my colleagues also. So
yes, to your colleagues.
So you are starting with me.
Yes.
When last did you? So I need to clarify that. That first, I'm not holding brief for the president, and I'm not a fan politics per se. I'm not.
You are doing your job.
I'm not a card carrying member of any political party.
Yes.
I'm just a simple journalist.
Yes.
So let's be on the same page.
You are not even a simple journalist. You are a member of the fourth estate of the realm.
Just a simple journalist.
Yes.
So let's just go by that narrative.
Yes.
So you can continue with your
okay, so that is very important.
Yes.
So as a simple journalist, when last did simple journalists gather and take simple questions?
I like that word.
When last did simple journalists gather and take simple questions from the commander-in-chief of the Federation to explain his achievements to you? When was the last time you saw President Tinubu have a press conference where he came out of the of the villa and said, look, let me take questions at random. Channels, you can go. Arise, you can go. Rapid TV, you can go. When last did you witness that? According to the age declaration of APC, President Tinubu is about 74, 75. The US president is 79 years old. So we are standing on a mandate that is collapsing. That is the reality of Nigeria. Mandate that is collapsing in Turkey, Nigerians are standing upon it. So if you want to fix the country, we must fix the system of our leadership recruitment, because that was your question. You cannot have a HR department in this office. One of the strongest departments here is your HR. That is why they looked for persons like you who are square pegs in square holes to be here. Imagine a HR where they need a news anchor, a journalist to sit down and anchor this program. They employ a plumber or a carpenter. That is what Nigeria's INEC does. Where you need a medical doctor, you can decide to get a vulcanizer. Because we have an electoral process that has become crooked. It is only weaponized by the most violent of people. If Nigerians want to move forward, we must ask ourselves the question, what kind of leadership do we want? How do we get a system that holds leaders accountable? If we do not build a system that rewards bad and that rewards good and punishes bad, do we truly have a society where a person can be accused as a former governor of stealing money to the tune of over 80 billion? According to EFCC, he paid school fee of his children in advance. That person has the nerves to come out today and say, I want to still seek further political office. It only happens in Nigeria. If it is in China, it is even death by firing squad. But in Nigeria, they are lucky people. You can steal money, you go to church, you donate. You go to mosque, you donate. They will call you a philanthropist. Business or money without enterprise. We must change our leadership recruitment process.
Peter, I've heard you speak in one forum where you talked about the fact that the court has now become the last hope for elections to be concluded.
Yes.
And I said, when you get to the studio, I will have to ask you to please elaborate on that particular conversation.
Because unfortunately, you know that the judiciary is supposed to be the last hope of the common man. But as it is today, Nigerian judiciary will have to decide whether we actually have a judiciary, because what we have today is more of the legal department of every government in power. The judiciary is an independent arm of a democratic government that dispenses justice for the states and not for statesmen. We have today a judicialization of our electoral process and our democracy. So what Nigeria does is we have committed over 800 billion to INEC to conduct elections. At the end of that process, everybody then sits down and waits for the tribunal to pick leaders. Do you know that in 2023, out of the about 360 House of Reps seats that were contested, just House of Reps, almost 300 of them were decided by the courts? Mr. Godwin, we spent billions of naira to conduct an election. But because everybody does not believe in that process, we know that at the end of this case, we are all headed to court. And that was why the late President Buhari made the famous statement in 2023. Anybody that does not agree with this should do what? Go to court. So the court is our new general hospital where you go to bandage your wound. If you don't fix this election and you are claiming that you want to go to court, what you go to get inside that court may just be the confirmation of your own autopsy.
Well, Peter, you know, there are angles to these things that you're taking us to. We're trying to even wrap our heads around. We've talked about the judiciary in itself. Are you saying at this point that Nigerians cannot trust the judicial institutions?
I'm not saying. It is the data and statistics that is on ground. Nigerians overwhelmingly do not have trust and confidence in their judiciary. Mr. Godwin, Even the immediate past Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Olukayode Ariwola, it became so bad that when there were conflicting judgments in a state in Kano in Nigeria, he had to put a stay on status quo and invited all the judges. Do you know why? It is because of the Nigerian judiciary. Today you have an APC emir in Kano, you have a state high court emir, you have a federal high court emir. Because the law has become almost something that is inexplicable. Even persons who are experts or professionals in the law cannot understand it, because our judiciary will rather rule on technicalities than staying on the facts of the law. Everywhere you see political turmoil in Nigeria today, you see the hand of the judiciary there. Today in Nigeria, we almost have a minister in the federal cabinet of President Tinubu who is dedicated to taking care of the judiciary. When you see a minister for FCT building houses, giving them allowances, buying cars for the judiciary, at the end, this is a player whose case will end up on that judicial bench. What do you expect to be the outcome?
But Peter, in a case where we have such a scenario, you've talked about free and fair election. From 1999 till date, it's as though there won't be a free and fair election in Nigeria, because we've seen the trajectory and what have played out. The question is, are we ready as a people for democracy, or we should look the other way around in order to govern ourselves?
When I hear questions like this, I feel pained, because as a people, we are all collective victims of this dysfunctionality. Everybody in Nigeria today is a potential victim. Even running this institution where we are seated here today is costing people a lot, because certain things that should be available in the country are not there. When you check even the salaries of staff and how they are managing the cost of housing, the cost of electricity to power this. So we must move from the conversation of whether or not there can be free and fair elections to ensuring we make a statement that there must be free and fair elections.
Are we even ready for the democracy?
So we must now look for persons who are ready to activate the readiness in every person. When you talk about if we are ripe for democracy or not, I will remind you of the words of the former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill. He said, democracy is the worst form of government until you try all other forms of government. Mr. Godwin, Nigeria has had military dictatorships. We have had monarchies where kings and others were in charge of empires. We have countries in the world that developed under dictatorships. At what point did Nigeria develop? What exactly has been the benefit of it all? If you take democracy in principle and put it into practice, we will be better off. Every person who tries to jackpot, the so-called jackpot from Nigeria today, look and observe that they do not go to the parts of the world where there is dictatorship. They don't run from here and go to the Middle East. They go to the Western world. What exactly is the difference between the democracy in America, in Europe, and in Nigeria? It is because we have not taken democracy in principle to put it in practice. So we have allowed a handful of persons to hijack it. So the persons who benefit from democracy are the handful of persons in public office who misuse and take the commonwealth and appropriate to themselves. While the people continue to sit and have conversations like this, like can it work, can it not work? How many persons are holding Nigeria hostage? Calculate everybody in power, how many are there, as against how many million people. Once the majority say enough, it will be enough. But until then, Nigerians will do the right thing after doing every other thing.
All right, let me bring this to you. Of course, you've been an advocate for electoral reforms, and you've been big on it. We've seen you at INEC Gate, at the National Assembly quite a number of times trying to advocate for them. But then, so far, have you been satisfied with the outcome of the whole Electoral Act?
Do you know, my response to this will be, nation building is not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Are you satisfied?
Whether or not I'm satisfied, the most important thing is I'm not giving up. Look, the Nigerian state has run as a sophisticated criminal enterprise for more than 60 years. We are about 65 years. If Nigerian public office holders do not know anything, they understand corruption. If you think that you are going to change Nigeria with just a wave of a hand, you might just be thinking or overthinking. You must understand that it takes critical strategy, determination, and resilience to ensure you get what you want, but you stay focused on the goal. That is why with all of the shenanigans in the national, unfortunately, Nigeria does not have a National Assembly. What we have is a Tinubu daycare. Are you aware?
Well, allegedly.
No.
We have a city National Assembly.
No,
we can't sit here and discredit the National Assembly.
That is what I want to explain to you, that the Nigerian National Assembly today is a Tinubu daycare filled with Tinubu's children. The Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, read a letter from the First Lady inviting them to come and have dinner at the villa with the First Lady. And the Senate President said it is an invitation from a mother to her children. So do you know that the Senate President is a son to Madam Remi Tinubu? So if the First Lady is their mother, who is their father? The President. So the Senate that is supposed to carry out oversight over the executive arm sees themselves as children of the executive. So who is supposed to oversee each other? Do you know that in Nigeria today, in Nigeria's budget, let us take Ministry of Solid Minerals for example, Nigeria is still budgeting over 6 billion to pay salary of staff in Ajaokuta Steel Company. Have you gone to Ajaokuta Steel recently? Do you know the level of brazen criminality that is going on in the National Assembly? Of the budget of over 340 billion to service the lives of persons in the National Assembly, have you seen the breakdown of the expenditure of the National Assembly? Before we sit down and begin to protect ourselves and claim that we have a National Assembly, the question is, what is that National Assembly? What is their role in ensuring the life of the common man is protected and that is taken care of? Or we have a bunch of self-serving individuals who are there to appropriate billions to themselves. Do you know that today in Nigeria we are looking for over 210 trillion from NNPC? And President Tinubu wrote off the debt of NNPC 5.1 trillion and more than $1.2 billion. 210 trillion is more than the total debt that Nigeria is owing. One agency is being accused of misappropriating that amount of money. Imagine what will happen if you audit NPA, NIMASA, NDDC, Custom, FIRS. Do you remember that the current Senate President was the Minister for Niger Delta during the infamous public hearing of Honorable Minister Off Your Mic? Look, when we want to get serious about holding public office holders accountable, we will stop this washing and setting. If not, what we have, today's victims were yesterday's survivors. Tomorrow's victims will be today's survivors. The next set of people Nigeria will happen to is those that are alive. The persons we call legislative arms of government and politicians in executive office, they are insulated. Their children are overseas. They are covered, and they will move at the next issue.
But as it stands right now, are Nigerians ready for this conversation?
Nigerians have to be ready.
But as it stands right now,
yes.
Are we ready for this?
Nigerians are ready. Nigerians are ready. What I want to do is to encourage us not to give up. A lot of Nigerians have good reason not to believe in this country. There are people, for example, the Gen Z. Imagine a generation of young children who were born into a system that never works. So when you are telling a Gen Z to come out and protest, you'll be asking you what for? Let me just learn tech, save some money, do what I can do and jackpot from this country. Because what has Nigeria given to me? But I want to let you know that as long as we are here, we must try to make it work. Nigerians came out en masse to vote in 2023. INEC said there was a glitch. It showed that Nigerians were ready. A politician went to a party that was almost unknown and somehow got more than 6 million votes according to INEC. It showed that Nigerians were ready. The statement and what we should be concerned with is building on that momentum. To know that because you were disappointed somehow in 2023 does not mean you should give up. It can still happen to anybody. We tried one time, it did not work. Let us try again. We must keep trying and not give up on this
with
country.
The same institutions that a lot of Nigerians, recall I asked, can we trust the institutions? And you said that we cannot trust the institution as it stands right now. And you're talking about free, fair and credible elections. Can these institutions guarantee all of this?
What I'm saying, I did not say outrightly you can't trust them.
All right.
You can't trust them, but you must instill on them the desire and the ability to perform and deliver for you. If millions of Nigerians come out to vote, ensure that they protect their votes and insist that their votes will count, nobody can rig through millions of people who are determined. The system is rigged against you, but it is intentional and it is deliberate.
But the ad hoc staff of INEC are not machines, and they're not robots. They are the human beings.
Human beings
themselves Nigerians.
Yes.
In the light of this conversation.
Yeah.
So how do we fix this if Nigerians don't even trust the systems?
Whether or not you trust the system, you must understand that that system will produce leadership for you. In 2027, INEC will be the one to conduct elections. INEC will announce a leader. People did not come out to vote during FCT election. It does not mean there is no chairman. The 70,000 who came out, amongst them, they voted and they collated results. Nigerians must understand that when more persons come out, the problem I have or the challenge I notice with Nigerians is that we are too adaptable. Our level, our threshold for pain is extremely incredible. So you can pull Nigerians, and instead of them to fight back to change it, they will move this way and say, don't worry, maybe after 4 years, shebi go soon come out. After another 4 years, and that is what we have done. It goes soon, we have gotten into where we are today. And everybody is gnashing their teeth in Kwara, Ekiti, everywhere in Nigeria. So Nigerians must know that we can convert pain into passion to take positive action. So as much as the institutions cannot, or you do not trust in them, we have the numbers and the capacity to overwhelm them and ensure they work for the people. How many are INEC ad hoc staff? When they see people wey mount for polling unit and say we want our votes to count, even the INEC staff knows that he's a victim of Nigeria. He will count the votes.
Interesting. Well, we'll look forward to a very productive country where everything works in the nearest future, of course.
With our efforts.
Let's not forget that part.
Yeah.
Of course, there are conversations around the Electoral Act I would have loved us to talk about, especially the sections around the Electoral Act.
Yeah.
I'm being signaled.
Okay.
Our time is fast spent. We have to just let's adjourn using legislative language and bring you back again in order for us to dissect all of this. Except you want to quickly react to the various sections that you're dissatisfied with in the recent Electoral Act.
Easy. Section 60, subsection 3. The use of electronic technology. It is an INEC position. INEC said we have done feasibility studies. We have enough network. But somehow the National Assembly decided to pass the law and put a caveat, a proviso that says where there is no network, we should use the form EC8A form, and it will be the primary source of collation. And INEC has stated that the ritual and the shrine of election rigging is in collation centers. That's why we need electronic technology to reduce human interference. That proviso is for us to go back to the crude way of ensuring that we do manual collation to give you what you saw in Obiakpo. And that is why I'm telling you that today in Nigeria, the only people having capacity to do real-time transmission are terrorists, kidnappers, and bandits. They do it from the forest. We as a people do not have the capacity, even after giving INEC more than 800 billion. We must challenge that system.
Well, Peter, quite a lot of things to discuss on this table. We've not even scratched the surface of this conversation.
We'll be back.
Of course, we will definitely bring you back on the show. On this note, I want to say thank you so much, Peter, for finding out time to be with us. Mr. Peter for Nigeria.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for
being
on the show. What viewers, this is how far we can go tonight on Correro. Do not forget that you can leave your thoughts, comments on our various social media handle currently showing on your screen. And you can also download the Rapid TV app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do enjoy the rest of your night rest. Bye for now.